Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's our Week 8 review and Week 9 preview. Once again, no Brett. Unfortunate. But in his place, we have Clint making his debut.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
What an entrance. And Jared.
Like I am every week. Well, not every week. Most weeks.
Your only absence is Milton so far.
Yep. So
and
far.
then right after that, too. Anyway.
Weak excuse, by the way.
Yeah.
Really though.
You're so
Truly.
right.
Get good and get power.
We're gonna get right into this. So Week 8 was kind of a high scoring week for all across the NFL. I think there were more touchdowns this week than any other week before. Finally, some offense.
This year, of course, not history.
Oh, okay, yes. Thank you for clarifying.
Yep. Just want to make sure we're not misrepresenting the NFL.
first matchup we're gonna talk about JGF and Compt, the battle of the abbreviations. Personal favorite matchup of the week. JGF pulls out the win behind strong performances from Mayfield, Achan, and David Njoku, and Tucker Kraft. So, and then other than that, it's pretty average performance across the board. Compt had some good games from his guys like Kelsey, but it wasn't enough in the end. Looking back to last week, this was a sweep. Me and Jared both predicted JGF to win this, so good job, Jared. We did it. Next, we're going to keep moving up the board. We got Clint playing Disco, and Clint's whole team had a breakout week this week.
Yes, it did. I jokingly said I was going to be the highest scorer in the league, and then it almost happened.
Yeah. Tillman and McConkey breakouts in the same week is insane. Cortland Sutton is apparently a good quarterback, too.
Wide receiver is what I play him at, though.
Yes, but he did have a 28-yard completion in that game, so. Anyway.
I'll take it.
And Bo Nix continues to impress. He's been on kind of a roll for fantasy outside of last week, but good for him. Clint takes the win. Again, Jared, we did it. We predicted the matchup right for that. Now we're going to go in what we deemed the matchup of the year. And I think we can, now that it's happened, deem it the disappointment of the year. These were two of the lowest scoring teams on the week, which is kind of crazy because they have been far and away the best teams through the first 7 weeks. Josh had a bunch of bust games. Dak was mediocre. Gibbs was great. Hunter pretty much had 3 players, and everybody else had stinky games.
Yeah, the Love injury definitely hurts. I mean, he could have easily pulled that out with an average game from Love. So
yeah, that's for sure. Hunter is definitely hurting at wide receiver. He doesn't have wide receiver depth, and this is where we're going to see it down the stretch through bye weeks, injuries, but see what happens moving forward. But Hunter stays perfect on the year, moves to 8-0. Now we've got Jared playing Adam. Jared's team put up a solid performance. Adam's team also had a good game. But this is what we've talked about all season. Like, Adam has a couple good pieces, but not enough firepower to keep up with the top dogs. Jared pulls
Pittman
it out.
should take a step forward, though.
Pittman, yes, he should. But he has Anthony Richardson, so his team as a whole will take a step back.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know. I mean, they can probably replace his points with a productive Pittman, but he would still need a quarterback to replace Anthony
Isaac
Richardson.
Guerendo's going to play in the Superflex. It's okay.
I love that guy. Another free guy I picked up in like 4 leagues.
Dang. Jared predicted Josh. I predicted Hunter in that game. I'm sorry, I went back to the other one. We both predicted Jared to beat Adam in that matchup. Now we've got Devin and Ross. So looking at this matchup, Devin's whole team went crazy. He didn't have a bad performance from anybody. And he almost doubled up Ross, which would have been insane. Derrick Henry had his first, mediocre game since week 1.
That's why I got off of him, guys. I knew he was going to slump. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, he had to. He had, 10 touchdowns in 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, the usage is going to be great. obviously Derrick Henry not being a super big pass catcher, when you're playing in a game that turned into a little bit of a shootout, it didn't allow them to just pound the ball. And obviously the Browns have a good defense because they've been in most of these games that they've lost,
Yeah.
scoring like 11 points or something total for the season.
Yeah, he actually had a good game on the ground. The problem is the Browns got up and the Ravens were trying to catch up, and I think they abandoned the run game a little bit too much. But
yeah,
you can't lean on a 30-year
the Chiefs
running back.
appreciate
I think
that.
The Ravens know that.
I mean, you can. The issue is you have to be diverse.
He's going to break down at some point is the concern.
Yeah.
Anyway, Devin gets a huge win there. Emphasis on the huge because of the amount of points he put up. Now we've got me and Turb. Now, I made about every bad start-sit decisions I could have this week. Multiple players on my bench scoring in the 20s and one almost 30. And Turb had a great week. But this was my best game of the season so far. And I'm glad it finally happened that, Marv, Garrett Wilson, and McBride all had good weeks at the same time. I avoided the embarrassing upset of giving Brett his first win of the season. So, moving to 5-3 to keep pace with Jared in record.
He really tried there, though, to upset you.
He did. He gave it his best run. So, looking at this week on a more narrow perspective, talk about some players that we thought did well or really bad this week. For myself, my bust pick is Mr. Cooper Pooper. He was more of a pooper this week. First week in Buffalo, had a great week for being there for like 3 days. Obviously, you get a touchdown, but he also had 66 yards. This week, he only had 2 targets. 1 catch for 3 yards. Yuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what he's done being there has really opened up Keon Coleman.
Yes.
Which has been great for anybody who took him in a rookie draft.
And it's funny because everybody thought the opposite when Cooper came into town. And I don't blame them.
They thought... I mean, for sure, they're going to trade off, right? I mean, it's going to depend on who's getting the number 1 coverage that week. But Amari Cooper being 10 days... Yeah. 10 days being into the organization, his presence should propel
he's gonna keep going
Keon to have. Yeah, Keon should continue to get better though because of the fact that he's not seeing number 1 coverage and because he has a veteran wide receiver to teach him some things.
Yeah.
Because Cooper's been effective. I mean, he's literally in his 10th year, as you guys can see, and I mean, all the way back in his years with the Raiders, he's been good. With the Cowboys, he's been good, and when Deshaun Watson wasn't the quarterback for the Browns, he was good.
You mean like the end of last year when he had like 77, 109, and 265 yards in back-to-back weeks?
A league winner. I mean, he was literally a league winner last year, but not this game. He was a game loser.
Yeah. 265 is like one of the wildest receiving lines I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. He destroyed some people. I think I actually lost to him. To somebody that had traded for him mid-season in that game, and I was like, and I had been trying to get him, but such is life.
Well, Clint, who is your bust of the week?
I am going to be honoring my hero, my hopeful hero for the end of the season, but unfortunately, Nick Chubb. I just felt like with Jameis, obviously, the passing game was going to be better because I might be able to pass better than Deshaun Watson at this point, even if his Achilles was healthy. And I can't throw for more than like 18 yards. So I just thought it was going to open him up to be able to score at least, somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 points, 12 to 15 points, probably get 70-ish yards from scrimmage and like a touchdown. But the Browns decided to let Jameis, air it out, and it worked. And Jameis is by far the most hilarious human being on planet Earth because he thinks he is. Yeah, dude, he's so funny. He thinks he's so serious when he's saying stuff, and he is ridiculous.
Like he said, but
yeah, Yeah, he said something about Mike Evans being so good because of his toes and him wanting to be a
Yep.
podiatrist, and I just lost it. I had to share that with like 8 different people, but yeah, I really expected obviously him not to have a full workload, but to have maybe a break off run here or there, and just to have a little bit step forward from his production the previous week, which was pretty much only lifted
Touchdown.
by the touchdown. So.
Would you
Uh,
say more receiving work is what you expected also? Because you only had 2 targets. I would have expected a couple more than that.
no, I mean I don't
He's
as a
never
Bucks
been a
fan
receiving
I don't.
back.
Yeah, there's that for him for one, and as a Bucks fan, I don't really remember us ever dumping off a lot to the running backs. Jameis has always been focused on pushing it downfield. I mean that's why Mike Evans has 10 straight 1,000 yard seasons because like 5 of those were with Jameis Winston just hurling the ball 40 yards down the field, going F it, Mike Evans is somewhere. Um, and now he's doing that with Tillman. So thanks for that trade, by the way. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Jared, what you got for us?
My bust of the week was Caleb Williams. I thought that considering how well he had done in the last two, the dramatic drop off to this game.
Before the bye week.
Yeah, before the bye week, of course. Maybe bye weeks aren't good for Caleb Williams. He needs to be playing, and it was an ugly game in general. Like I don't think even Jaden Daniels' numbers probably looked amazing, but he did have at least the last second touchdown, obviously, to win the game. But no touchdowns, 131 yards on 24 attempts. He did actually have some rushing yards. I mean, that was kind of maybe the only redeeming side of this game for him. He rushed 9 attempts for
those last 3
47.
games. Woof.
But
Yeah, he did have pretty much close to a game-winning drive, though. I mean, outside
He
of
did.
It's true.
Yeah.
if there wasn't the Hail Mary where the guy was
Yeah.
taunting on the sidelines, and I'll be honest, as somebody who used to have Dan Quinn in their division as a head coach, being a Bucks fan when he was with the Falcons, and then looking to what he did last year as the Cowboys defensive coordinator, that guy is good at confusing quarterbacks, especially young guys who don't have a ton of game experience. So, I mean, I think
their defense is
I
only
think
getting
it's-
better week by week
yeah.
too. It's impressive.
it's somewhat it's somewhat predictable, but it's also like he has really seemed to take a huge step forward, and it's going to be interesting to see how he responds going into Arizona. That's a winnable game, but it should be a good back and forth against the defensive head coach, though. So we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see indeed. Now, you mentioned a guy, and Jared's also going to talk about that guy.
My guy, Tillman. This is you,
yes,
Jared.
sorry.
You can go.
Hey, you need to. We don't rehearse this. So my surprise player of the week, switching notes to more things we like to see, was Cedric Tillman. Obviously, who everyone knew would be. I think he was like wide receiver. I think it was like 4 on the week. I mean, 2 touchdowns will do that. But he had 7 catches for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think in our league he had a long reception bonus that helped his scoring too. Although that doesn't seem like it by the score. But anyways, great game out of him. Not somebody I knew the name of until I saw him in a trade earlier this season. Some moron traded Cedric Tillman for some running back from Pittsburgh. I don't even know his name.
Cordell Patterson.
He knows the name. He's just being a troll.
I was being.
I know. I'm literally sitting here
For
just
those
like
watching,
with a shit-eating grin on my face. I'm not even gonna lie, because I saw this trade, and obviously as a team that was planning to rebuild, I go 32-year-old running back or 33-year-old running back or 24-year-old wide receiver who I had heard talked about on some other dynasty programs, and I was like, well. Although I don't believe in Deshaun Watson, I believe at some point there will be competent QB play, and the long game is to grab the younger asset that has a longer runway. And I am excited to say that Cedric Tillman, over the last 2 weeks, has been wide receiver 1 above Justin Jefferson.
Ooh.
So I'm glad to have that guy on my team.
It doesn't look good.
It's ruining my
I'll say
tank.
That
So.
trade doesn't look great, but we will.
There were a few times that you probably made moves that you would have been better off not doing. The Rashid Rice thing, looking back at, but
stunk as well.
But I mean, at least Rice is injured, so you're not missing those points. You know what I mean? So,
I did dodge that bullet. You're right.
Yeah, it was heart wrenching too, especially the way he started the season.
And
so
Blake Corum might as well be hurt though. I mean, look at this guy. Not
Dude,
doing much.
Kyron Williams is the truth.
Yeah, he is also injury prone, so the moment that happens, Corum's gonna have a big role.
Nope, that's when Ronnie Rivers breaks out. I'm just kidding.
Ronnie Rivers. Speaking of breakout running backs on my roster, Tyrone Tracy. He's had some big weeks without Devin Singletary. Last week, Singletary came back, and Tracy barely got any touches. But it was completely different against the Steelers this week. The Giants were clearly switching the role, and the offense is now going to be Tyrone Tracy's backfield.
Yeah.
20 carries, and almost every time he got the ball, he was running for like 6-10 yards on the Steelers, which is kind of weird.
I would argue the Steelers forgot how to tackle in the first half of that game, which I believe a majority, other than his 45-yarder that he had in the second half, came in the first half. I'd be interested to see if you subtract the 45-yard touchdown in the second half, how many rushing yards he had, because I think it was probably 4.
If you take away 45 yards, he would have exactly 100 yards.
It's actually easy math, believe it or not.
No, I mean in the second half.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, no, that was an exciting game. I mean, you had a kick return for a touchdown. You had a long touchdown. Was it the Pickens? You had a break-off run from Tracy for that touchdown. I mean, that was a cool game to watch.
And about 5 touchdowns pulled off by stupid pre-snap penalties. Holdings, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I think didn't Pickens have 2 called back?
Pickens had 2 touchdowns called back. Who was the other Giants? Was it Neighbors? Yeah, Neighbors had a touchdown called back.
Well, not called back. Neighbors' touchdown was called off because he didn't have a foot down. One of Pickens was too.
No, but who's the Giants player that was called off because Neighbors?
Some tight end.
Was it Theo Johnson's touchdown? That's what it was. It was a Theo Johnson touchdown that was called off because Malik Neighbors was never set before the snap, but. It was a wild game, and I didn't think we'd get here, but we're talking about this game specifically, so I gotta mention it. I was playing Devin in a different league, where it was pretty much Russell Wilson versus Neighbors in 5 points, and I had thought I lost going into the night and throughout the night, and then when Russ fumbled in the fourth quarter, Neighbors ended up pulling me back, and I ended up winning on the Giants' last drive of the game, and broke Devin's heart.
It's a heartbreaker for sure.
And the last thing I heard him say Monday night when he logged off the call while we were watching the game together was, "I'm gonna kill myself."
You've not heard him since.
So I haven't heard from Devin since. So I hope he's alive and still kicking up there.
Here's the question for Mr. Ohio State.
Yep.
Do you feel like the offense is being run better for the Steelers with Fields or with Russell Wilson?
It's Russell Wilson, for sure. But, and Jared can attest to this too. I believe Jared agrees with this statement. The offense they didn't open it up for Fields like they have for Russ.
He wasn't hitting deep balls. I saw it happen multiple times. He was missing on deep balls.
I'm not saying he was hitting everything he threw. The offense was a lot more conservative and under Fields.
We're still I bet if you look at the stats of how much we run on second and long, we still lead the league even with Russell at the helm.
Yeah, I don't think
the difference is Russell's actually hitting the deep ball and Justin wasn't.
Yeah, and I think there might be a little bit more belief because of the history that Russell's had, minus the last 2 years. Because Pickens, one of those catches that he had downfield, he took off the defender. Not this week, but the previous week. He literally took it off the defender and pulled it away. And it's like Pickens is, obviously he's a little bit of a basket case, but when he is motivated and focused, he will make some insane catches. And I think Russ is not afraid to arc it down the field, and he's always been a relatively high-level, top 3 guy on the deep ball
Yeah.
in the league, especially during the
Because
years
of that
he was in
moon ball.
Seattle.
They call it a moon ball.
Moon ball. I don't know, man.
It's,
You
it's
gotta
a
love
PI
those.
ball, is what it is.
Those. I mean, here's the thing. He's a short little guy. You got to put that thing into orbit. You know, got to send it to the moon. But I'm excited. I mean, it's good to like as somebody who's been a Bucks fan and most of my life not seen success. I'm hopeful for the Steelers to win a playoff game. I like Mike
They have
Tomlin.
6 Super Bowls. What do they need anything more for? Come on.
I don't want him to win the Super Bowl, but I like Mike Tomlin. I don't want Mike Tomlin to lose his job. Mike Tomlin is a leader of men.
As a Browns fan,
He
I
is
would love for
about-
Mike Tomlin to lose his job.
And go to
He is
the Browns.
about developing
Yes.
players. He is about developing people, and he does a great job.
Can
Like
we trade Kevin Stefanski for Mike Tomlin?
and he is also off the coaching tree from Tampa, I believe. Under who was the guy we fired before we won the Super Bowl?
Tony Dungy.
Tony Dungy. Yeah, so he's off that coaching tree.
Wow.
So anytime we get to see one of those guys from back in the day, one of my
Back when
Bucks
you were in high
guys,
school.
dude, not back when I was in high school, I was 30, bro. I was probably in kindergarten or first grade whenever Dungy got fired. But anyway, I am the old guy here, so I'll take the heat.
Speaking of old guys, we've talked about some young breakouts. So, Clint, what do you got for us?
For our breakout?
For your old guy. Old
Are you
alive.
talking about my
Surprise.
prediction of the week?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so listen, I have bought Alvin Kamara in a league that I was competing in last year, and after last week in Denver, seeing how poorly the offense functioned, I was worried about Alvin Kamara, and I really did not expect him to come out and perform. And I felt like, for the most part, he's been touchdown dependent. But even in non-full PPR and like the half PPR league we were in, he was still a top tier running back. And I just got a 2-year deal. It's exciting to see him, no matter what the circumstances are, go out and perform. And so him, totaling over 100 yards from scrimmage, with the receptions, 6 receptions, 11 targets. It's good to see him be steady. I mean, a lot of people that own him in different leagues want him to perform well because he is an asset that you're looking to compete with. And the coaching in New Orleans is suspect. The talent around him is suspect. The cap situation is abysmal. But yet every year he continues to come out and be an RB1. I think this will be his 7th RB1 season. And basically he is ahead of every other active running back for RB1 seasons that are active currently. So it's cool to see him doing it again.
I was just looking at his stat. It's hard to imagine him doing it for too much longer. 29 years old. He's already past that running back age cliff. It's like usually around
He
20.
just hit 29. He turned 29.
Usually the cliff's around 27, 28. But
yeah.
In my opinion, Kamara right now is a surefire Hall of Fame running back. Because he's done everything for the Saints offense since he was a rookie. Even when he was sharing the backfield with Mark Ingram in the first 2 years of his career, he was still putting up insane numbers for a young guy. And he wasn't really like a super touted prospect coming out either. So, enjoy still doing this.
Yeah, I literally had him and Mark Ingram starting on a championship line. Like I made it to the championship game starting both of them, Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. And also, side note, Alvin Kamara and Chris Godwin were drafted in the same draft class. And one week I was at a Bucks game, and he was still returning kickoffs. So this will tell you it was his rookie season. And I was sitting in the end zone behind him talking mad crap. And this guy caught the ball and then returned it for a touchdown. I watched the seas literally be parted, and he returned it for a touchdown. But Chris Godwin caught a touchdown down the sideline, broke a tackle, and it was basically a walk-off touchdown to end the game. But it was crazy to see the explosiveness and just the ability to read the gaps and just to get open. So it's just been doing it for a long time. We got to appreciate guys like him. and Derrick Henry, who've been incredibly steady.
There it is.
assets
Week
that are-
17 in his rookie year.
Yep. I was at that game, and it was a heartbreaker. I was like, we're gonna lose, and then literally Jameis is driving it down the field. He hits Godwin at probably about the 15. Godwin breaks the tackle on the sideline to my left, and they run it in to win the game for us. And I was like, this is incredible. But yeah, Kamara has been a nuisance, much more so than actually CMC was, believe it or not.
Well, you're a
Kamara
Bucs
has
fan,
had
so
more.
of course you'd call the guy in your division a nuisance.
Well, CMC, if you
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
don't forget, CMC was in Carolina with Cam
The
Newton,
problem is, for a lot of CMC series, they haven't had a great team.
and he's also been injured.
Yeah.
He's been much more injured than Kamara has. So,
Much.
all right, sorry for the sidebar, but I have to share that story because I do love him as a fantasy asset, and I hate him as a division rival. But
I forget what it's called. Memories as images, when you can like picture things in your head. Those are super cool.
photographic
stories.
memory.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the one. I have the same thing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think about it every time. That guy.
We're gonna split from our Alvin Kamara dialogue, and we're gonna go over to Jared, who's got some quick injury updates for us.
Yeah, some
For a
great
hand.
news. Great news always with the injuries. So just to
Who'd
go.
you injure this week, Jared? No.
Yeah, this is all your
Who did
fault.
I injure? I didn't predict any of these injuries actually.
I'm glad.
Um,
I'm so glad.
I mean, I actually have kind of got off that this year. It's distasteful, honestly, to predict injuries.
Yeah.
Unless they're on divisional rivalries, and then it's fine. You know, you can wish them to break their collarbones or whatever. So yeah, the first one we're going to start off with is a broken collarbone. Christian Kirk is out for the season.
Clavicle, sir.
Collarbone and clavicle,
Yeah, I
same
know.
thing. Look
I
it
know,
up.
I know, but it's
Synonyms.
Sleeper says clavicle, Jared.
Well, that's the medical term. Collarbone is not a medical term.
Even the radio
Anyways,
says
I
collarbone.
know this because I broke my collarbone before, and because I've done that, I know that this.
How
with
did you do
Christian
that
Kirk, I fell while playing football. I got pushed from behind and landed on my collarbone, and it broke. We were playing two-hand touch football, and Levi pushed me into the end zone to down me, and I fell onto my right collarbone, and it snapped. But you know what that means? That means I know that Christian Kirk is a wimp because I had it happen, and I'm not even a professional football player. So obviously that makes him a wimp.
And
Alright,
you did
next
it
one
without
up.
pads. He did it with pads on.
That is true. How did
Yeah.
that even happen? And was this in practice or did this happen during the game?
No, this happened during the game.
Okay.
He
Anyway,
What?
probably
How
had a
did you not know?
350-pound man. He probably had a 350-pound man land on him while he
same thing as getting pushed. Same
by
thing.
your 165-pound, 5'7" brother. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
makes sense.
Anyways, the next one up is Stephon Diggs. He's out for the season, actually. Torn
Both of those
ACL. That
guys
was a
are.
non-contact injury, right? I remember seeing a highlight
Yeah.
of that. It was pretty brutal.
Torn ACLs
one of
usually
those-
are.
Yeah, that's true. One
Unless
of those.
your name is
ones
Nick
you
Chubb
see
and
happen.
Minka Fitzpatrick home and missiles your knee. Anyway,
True. Then we had our round of concussions this week, as usual.
the weekly carousel, honestly.
Really, Drake May had a concussion. Tyron Tracy had a concussion after having an amazing game.
Yeah.
He left that game. It was actually really sad because, like, look at this young player, and that's like, oh, he's now concussed.
It's crazy. It's like that, and the thing is, like with fantasy, it's crazy because this year, like last year and this year, as they've gotten more attentive to these things, which is obviously important. We don't want everybody seizing up like Tua on the field, but like
Although
you
can
basically
see that
have-
if you play Madden.
yeah, depth is so crucial right now because like. I mean, Neighbors missed what 1 or 2 games
Two.
With concussions. Olave's missed. You know, we were talking about that earlier. He has 4 concussions in his career. Like,
Well,
there's
3
a
in the
chance that
NFL,
he,
1 in college. But
yeah, there's a chance that he calls it a career early. Like, I mean, Luke Kuechly. I mean, obviously defensive player, but hung it up. There was I can't remember the 49ers linebacker, but a lot of these guys, like, it's, you know, Tyron Tracy may not play this week because of a concussion. You know,
And recently, it's
we're
been
seeing that.
if they have a concussion, they'll miss a week. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens with a quarterback being May. I would expect
Yeah.
Tracy will miss this week, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe 2 because they have the bye in week 11. So
Yeah, it stinks too, especially when you're a young player like that and you're starting to catch a groove. It's like, okay, the concussion, like in reality, they could probably come back and play
And-
next week, but because we're being safe, they're not going to. And sometimes that makes them have to have another tune-up game
and
to really get
I just
trustable
want to
again.
be honest with these 2 Giants, since we mentioned neighbors earlier. I would honestly, Tracy probably will miss 2 games because they will have the bye afterwards. And the Giants, when these guys are out there, Brian Daboll's a great coach, by the way, and he knows that for the Giants to win games, they have to give their best players the ball as much as possible. So
Yeah.
Neighbors and Tracy, both of their concussions came in like the 4th quarter of the game after they were having massive days. Like Neighbors, the day he got his concussion, he took so many big hits in that game.
Well, and
It was like
dehydration
fatigue.
plays a lot.
Yeah.
Dehydration plays a lot to do with the the
Head
fluid
injuries.
around the brain, supposedly.
Mhm.
Anyway, UFC fighters, there was a podcast about it, and they were talking about the fact that when they're dehydrated, it's it's much more likely that you'll have a concussion or a knockout based off those types of things. But anyway, that's just a sidebar. But yeah, I mean, I do think that Dable is a good coach. I think that he's been held back extremely bad by Daniel Jones. Even as someone who has a couple shares of Daniel Jones, I'm ready to see what he looks like with somebody other than Daniel Jones or Josh Allen. Give him an average quarterback. Get him a Kirk Cousins. Get him somebody like that this offseason. Or get him a rookie that, is at least competent in passing.
Yeah.
I think all the pieces are there for them to take a big step forward. And I think their defense can be good, but they're just exhausted because you can't control the pace of the game with poor quarterback play. So
Yeah, it was
we'll find out.
Interesting side note there, and I'm gonna take this next one from Jared. We're gonna go from talking about concussions to another guy that seemingly has a brain injury. Jameson Williams, who's currently serving a suspension, is being investigated by the police because he was found with a firearm in his car. So that's really cool. Good job, Jameson. Even while he's suspended, he's still making the headlines. So,
You gotta love those liberal cities. You can't even keep a gun in your car nowadays. What is this?
all right, and back to Jared for the injuries.
Just to rattle through the last couple, Brian Thompson Jr. had a chest injury and is considered day-to-day. Calvin Ridley, a shoulder injury, which is concerning considering
He missed
only
today's
just...
practice.
Okay, well, tomorrow will be the tell, obviously.
Yep.
T.J. Hawkinson, it was almost going to play last
he
week.
did play last year.
But did
It
ruled
did
out right before the
poorly.
game. So hopefully he'll be back and be the tight end 1 again for the Vikings. Jordan Mason re-injured his shoulder, so that means who's their third string?
Isaac
Garingo.
Oh, that's the one I lost
Garindo.
that under on. I bet the under on his yardage in the second half.
Because he
He
didn't
got
realize
cooked.
Jordan Mason was hurt.
Yeah, anyways, that guy, screw that guy, honestly, is probably going to get the start this week. Yeah, and then other than that, other news in the NFL, Anthony Richardson.
Wait.
got-
We're giving him his moment. In
Yeah,
other
this is
news
for
in
me,
the
dude.
NFL, we're going to let Clint take the floor.
Oh, okay, Roger.
We talked about this before
And this
the
is-
show, and Jared forgot.
Yeah, this is a painful one, unfortunately, as someone who traded up last year to acquire a share of Anthony Richardson. Shane Steichen is credited with the development of Jalen Hurts, taking him from a second-round pick to a Super Bowl competing quarterback. Not a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but a Super Bowl competing quarterback before being hired with the Indianapolis Colts. It is, I haven't watched a lot of the games, but I was excited when I looked at the score after about the first quarter. It's like Anthony Richardson with 15 points and like a 67 yards passing with a touchdown. I'm like, oh, cool, another big play. And then I looked and he was 2 for 15.
And
I was like- I was like, wait a second. So he has had an abysmal pass percentage. I think around 44%.
in the second half, he was 8 of 17.
Yeah, and so obviously it did get a little better. His vision did get a little better. we are talking about a guy who I think prior to this season had about 19 starts since high school.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Division I football for the Gators, if you can even call the Gators Division I at this point. And then coming up here where he's been on IR, and then tapping out because he's winded as a 22-year-old professional athlete that was literally the most athletic quarterback ever drafted.
So I just want to, from a dynasty perspective, what's your current take on Anthony Richardson career arc? Like one or two sentences. Like, what do you say, like, moving forward?
You guys can't see my face, but I have such a look of disappointment because I was so hopeful. My succinct line of thinking here is the unfortunate reality is he and Bryce Young are more than likely going to find a new place to attempt to be quarterbacks, and it's not going to be anything more than another failed stop along the way.
So, I'm kind of on a different side of the fence on Anthony Richardson than you. It seems like, yes, he sucks right now. I get that.
Convert him to tight end.
He's played. Yeah, put him on the Tim Tebow career path. He's played very little quarterback, and obviously super athletic quarterback, big guy. He's gonna have Josh Allen comparisons. Like, there's still the Josh Allen comp. Like, everybody throws it out there for quarterbacks that start their career terribly that are super athletic, but like, Richardson is the most like Josh Allen quarterback we've seen, and the Colts do have a good receiver room. They don't have an elite receiver though. All of them are just good NFL receivers.
So Pittman has been was touted and has been touted for years.
Yeah, but he's never been a difference maker.
Yeah, but he's like look at the quarterbacks he's played with.
He's like the 15th best wide receiver one in the league, and he's probably like number 30 in the league. Overall.
But look again. So here's the issue you got to look at with Anthony Richardson. I totally understand that everyone. And here's the thing: I would love to be wrong because I spent the 102 or the 103 on him last year, and I mean a ton of people did. But the reality is, not every quarterback hits, and just because you have a great athletic profile, that doesn't translate to reading defenses.
Oh, I wouldn't bet on him hitting. I agree. 100%.
And he's never been great at accuracy. That's never been his claim to fame. And you look at what Gardner Minshew did with the same team last year, actually with less talent last year on it, and Gardner Minshew was a much more accurate quarterback. Yeah. We're talking same coordinators, same systems. We're talking about a guy who took Hurts, who wasn't supposed to, wasn't supposed to be an NFL caliber quarterback, and took him to a Super Bowl as his coordinator. So I just. If that guy's thrown in the towel, not to mention the fact that he literally tapped out, like he lost so much respect, unfortunately,
I think
in that locker room.
Honestly,
well, that just abysmal quarterback play. When Joe Flacco is coming in,
I think they ride him out if he's just not playing because he's got to play to develop. But the moment you lose the locker room for the guy, I think that's the moment it was over because, I mean. There's not much more to say about Richardson. He's not been good. Yeah. He's on the bench, so he's a backup quarterback.
Yeah, he's not good. He's not been good, and you should have seen. Good. You've got to look at it this way. He had three games last year, and he's been injured. You know who's not been injured in their career? The Josh Allens. Josh Allen has been incredibly available, and Josh Allen has had a lot more progression and completely had to change his throwing motion to develop. And it took a couple years. It took getting a Stephon Diggs. And I would say that Pittman, at his current stage in his career, was comparable to what Stephon Diggs was when he went to the Bills.
Anyway.
I would say that if you looked at him and you go, hey, like we're trading for Pittman, people would have been like, oh, okay, well, that's a better wide receiver than we've got. But we've never seen Pittman with an elite quarterback. And then you've got Josh Downs, who's also added. You've got, who's also taken a step forward. and then they went and got Adonai Mitchell. Their offensive line, I think, is a top 5 rated by PFF. He's got everything in place. They've got Jonathan Taylor. I mean, look at the things that Josh Allen had. I mean, I can't even name the number 1 wide receiver that was there when Josh Allen showed up because that's how
bad it was.
you know. So
Yeah.
that's my only thing. I want him to be good. I mean, I'm rooting for everybody to be good. Like, I would love for Bryce Young to come out this week, throw for two touchdowns, and take a big step forward.
He's been a popular bold prediction.
There's a lot of data that says otherwise.
Yeah.
You know.
We shall see. And there's one other big piece of NFL news, Clint.
Well, there's 2. Well, actually 3. 3 other trades. Deontay Johnson.
I'll give you 2.
Well, I can't even name the other guy. The linebacker that the Patriots traded to the Chiefs, Uchi or whatever his name is.
He plays defense. We don't care.
Yeah, I care. My Bucks are going to lose to them on Monday night. But anyway, so we had Uchi go over to Kansas City, which is somewhat inconsequential. We also saw. I mean, you guys talked about Hopkins and everything last week? Yep. I'm sure. But we had Deontay Johnson go from the Carolina Panthers to the Baltimore Ravens. I went to sleep 1-6 or 2-6 or whatever. Woke up, 6-2 or whatever it is. But anyway, he's made a move up there, 5-3. I think this is a great thing for Baltimore's passing attack. I think it's a step back, possibly for Andrews or Flowers. And Bateman had a couple of games where.
Deontay. It's a step back for
Well, Deontay hasn't been playing for a couple of weeks, and he's had 2 boom weeks, 3 boom weeks basically.
Yeah.
So he's been 3 high, 3 low.
But 3 of those weeks, 3 of the first 7 weeks were with Bryce Young, so you really can't count those.
Yeah. Well, you can. I mean, you can count. You can count them because that's the scoring.
You know what I'm saying.
So 3 good weeks, 3 bad weeks. And I mean, in one of those was against Chicago. He's matchup dependent, just like Flowers is. I'm worried for Flowers to lose a couple targets a game. Bateman, I think, goes back to being irrelevant.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how he integrates at the goal line area. What do they do? I mean, obviously they're going to go with Henry if they think they can run it. And then is Flowers going to be a target? Like, I think it goes Andrews is the one when it comes to the red zone for targets, and then maybe Flowers and Deontay, but I think it might jump to Deontay, just him being a little bit more of a savvy vet, and it's just a rental. So, but then also we're going to shift over to Cam Robinson. This is kind of a side note because this decreases the protection for Trevor Lawrence and increases the protection, it improves the offensive line after the Darrisaw injury for Aaron Jones and
the Vikings.
Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. So they lost a top 5 offensive tackle, and they went out and they bought from the Jaguars, who realized who they were, which is another terrible team. Terrible. And so they went ahead and got a left tackle that I would say is probably a top 15 left tackle in the league to solidify that spot because Darrisaw is not going to be back. And they believe that they have Super Bowl aspirations, I think. So I think it was a good move. It keeps it's going to keep that passing game relevant because obviously if you can't pick your quarterback, especially one who is hopefully breaking out in like year 6 or whatever, you've got to go out and get those guys to kind of keep them in a clean pocket. So I think that helps Sam Darnold stay relevant, which is good. Helps Justin Jefferson, who is quarterback proof. But we'll see what happens. I'd like to see Addison take a step forward. He hasn't really arrived this season, in my opinion.
We'll see. I think the Hawkinson coming back may help Addison or make him completely irrelevant. I don't really think it's going to stay the same for him. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, I don't remember a time where Darnold was feeding relevant receivers of any caliber prior to this season. So, I don't remember if his tight ends were good when he was with the Jets. So I'm hopeful that he will be. We know Kirk likes to put the ball to the tight end, and so that was what was driving Hawkinson's value last year, prior to the injury. So it'll be interesting to see what shakes out. I mean, this is why Pitts is finally breaking out, right? Because Kirk, I'm sure, is in the ear of the offensive coordinator, going, "Let's get it to the 6'6" guy who runs a 3.8 40." So.
Indeed.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think there's some good moves. I think the Deontay Johnson thing, I think it does tape. It just spreads it out a little bit more.
And big wheels up for Jalen Coker and Xavier Legette in Carolina as well, and Adam Thielen when he comes back from the nursing home. I mean the injured list.
Yeah, which Thielen was doing. By the way, Thielen was doing the exact same thing last year that Deontay was, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, Thielen was a league winner. I think he ended up injured again last year, but that's what happens.
That was for that team. Unfortunately, their quarterback is not good.
And he's 163 years old, so he can only play half the time. So, but yeah, also a former Viking.
But when he's on the field, I don't see him tapping out.
That is true.
Yeah, and believe it or not, wide receivers run more than quarterbacks. Who would have thought?
A lot more than quarterbacks.
The crazy part is, Richardson tapped out in the red zone, but Adam Thielen caught the ball and then literally laid on the field after he got the touchdown.
Yeah, he didn't even try to go out of the game. They had to carry him out, I think.
Yeah, he's like, I'm too tired to walk.
This is like that Paul Pierce game where he he had to go take a poop and they had to wheel him out in the wheelchair.
Lamar Jackson, yeah.
No. You're not old enough for the Paul Pierce one. The Paul Pierce one, they literally put him in a wheelchair and took him off because of cramps or something. But the rumor is that he had to take a dump.
I thought that was DK Metcalf.
Oh, DK Metcalf.
Oh yeah, yeah. They carted him off last year.
Yeah, there's a few of those that have happened. I mean, here's the thing. I'm obviously no professional athlete, so I can't necessarily sit here and judge them as somebody who got winded playing ultimate frisbee on Saturday. But yeah.
Well, you didn't tap out. That's the important part, Clint.
That's true. I didn't
way to
quit.
Stick in there and fight for your team. But speaking of gonna need a wheelchair, we're gonna go ahead and jump to the matchups. Brett's team might need a wheelchair after Devin's team comes in here. Coming off the best week, I believe, I did not fact check this, but I believe Devin is coming off the best week this league has seen in 3 years. On a single week performance from a team, so incredible week last week. We've all gone Devin here. I don't think we really need to talk about it. Brett's tanking, and he hopes he loses, is a good way to put it. Next up, we're going to myself versus Ross. We've mentioned Ross's team as right now looks like the 6th seed in the playoffs, pretty solidified, but tough matchup for him here, playing my team that finally is looking like they're putting it together.
Yeah.
And hopefully that continues. We've also all predicted my team to beat Ross.
Yeah, you have more boom players. That's the thing. For me, when it comes down to some of these that are somewhat close, like Jared's matchup, it's I kind of look at it and I go, who do I think has higher floor, and then who do I think has a higher ceiling? Yeah. And when I look at that, there are definitely some good matchups here. I mean, it's going to come down to if Love's healthy, with that one, because this is the closest prediction matchup wise. I think Kyron's a touchdown machine. So it's kind of a toss up there. It's really going to come down to who has the better week, but I feel like Jared's players have the higher ceilings outside of Gibbs. Gibbs can be a game breaker. But
yeah, for sure. It's definitely interesting. We'll see what happens. Speaking of Jared's matchup, there's a slight disagreement here. Myself and Clint have both predicted Jared to win. Josh's team has lost 2 of the last 3 weeks after the 6-0 start, and Love is questionable with a groin injury. That not only affects his starting quarterback, but Dobbs and Jaden Reed in the lineup. So we'll see what happens with them. Jared, do you have
sorry, Reed's been a big boom bust guy too.
Yeah.
Like he's either
All
come out and put up
receiver.
28 points or he's put up like 6.
He had
So-
55 yards, and almost all of that was in the last 5 minutes of the game. So,
Yeah, on that one big catch there.
Yeah,
Yes.
he had 50 yards on that deep ball, I believe.
so
And Willis, that's a crazy thing. Willis looks like he could actually play quarterback.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
really does.
it's unbelievable. Tennessee is quickly turning into the Jets when it comes to quarterback development,
or
It
Carolina.
does seem.
Oh. or Indianapolis apparently,
There's a lot. We could keep going. Cleveland.
or Tampa Bay. Oh wait, no,
Oh wait, they got Baker Mayfield.
They don't need to do
we
all-
didn't develop him. We didn't develop him.
That's right. The Browns
He came-
did. Let's go.
He came as yeah. There you go, man.
Ben
We could trade him back to you for
Roethlisberger.
3 firsts.
Keep him. We don't want him. Anyway, with us thinking Jared's gonna win, and Jared being the only one that doesn't. Jared, what's going on? What?
This is maybe a little bit,
Is
if
this
I'm
a
being honest.
Reverse psychology situation.
Yeah, I would just, I want to be wrong.
Kind of like I
I
predicted Clint to beat me way back.
for
when.
sure. I want
Better watch
to
out,
predict
Tillman.
him to win. So I win. I think this might
Yeah.
be the first week that I feel confident about starting Patrick Mahomes, which is a
Oh.
crazy statement. He's playing.
You better be wearing underpants for that one.
He's playing
He's
Tampa
in
Bay,
20.
who's arguably the worst team, or the best team, however you want to see it, against quarterbacks. If you
My
if you
Tampa
have
Bay
a
Buccaneers.
quarterback,
They are the
Start
worst.
him,
They are the
basically.
best matchup for quarterbacks to face
Yes.
on paper.
Yeah.
They're giving up the most points to quarterbacks.
The only caveat to that, as a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, is Todd Bowles has had Patrick Mahomes numbers
Yes.
in the playoffs, and then in some of the games we played pretty well against them. I just believe our secondary is pretty depleted. I think that the coaching has. I think that it's starting to fall on deaf ears to a certain degree. I think that the defense is starting to lose a little bit of faith in Todd Bowles and his scheme. But I think Patrick Mahomes will have a good week for sure. I mean, we allowed 27 points to a 5th-round rookie with Dennis Allen as his head coach. 27 points in a quarter. So if this game, if this game was, 20 to 47, it wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, with the Chiefs winning.
Dang,
As a Bucs
you
fan.
think the Bucks are going to score 40? I'm just kidding.
No, I don't. I don't. I think that our cap is probably 28 points, but it all comes down to the fact that I just don't think our defense is built to stop anyone at this point. We have great
We
players
shall find out.
in Vita, and we have great players in like Antoine Winfield, but there's not
Pieces
enough over
around.
there right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jared, do you have any final closing thoughts on why you're going to lose or reverse psychology and you'll win?
It's mostly reverse psychology. I mean, there's definitely a chance I lose. This team's 6-2, and they're that way for a reason. I think there's definitely some players to be scared of: the Gibbs, the Londons, the Waddle. Thankfully, Miami apparently is bad at football, and they don't know how to play anymore. So that should hopefully benefit me because I'm not going to start my Miami quarterback this week. So hopefully that doesn't bite me in the butt. Part of me wanted to start him just to kind of cancel out any Waddle
think-
points.
For you to
But,
start Tua, it would take you getting a concussion.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely picked the wrong.
They're playing the
quarterbacks
Bills,
last-
right?
So
Yes.
Are they playing the Bills?
In Buffalo.
Yeah, you don't want to put.
Oh
Oh,
no!
you don't-
Oh no! Oh
It's over,
no!
dude. He better stay away from DeMar Hamlin. DeMar Hamlin's gonna hit him with that
Oh
defibrillator.
no! Tua against the Bills coming off a 100% snap game. Oh no!
Yeah.
yeah, that doesn't sound
Uh
very
oh.
nice.
Deja vu.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, that's kind of how it went the
Last
year that he
year?
had
Yeah.
the last seizure
2 years ago.
on the field.
You're right. You're right.
But-
That was kind of how it was.
Yeah,
Anyway.
the Bills did it to him, and
Oh,
then
wait,
the Bengals
was
did
it?
it to him.
Oh, it was the Bills, dude. That's
Yeah.
crazy. The Bills have given
Yeah,
3
dude.
of those concussions.
Yeah, dude, they're
Oh,
out for
no,
one,
Jared.
dude.
Uh oh,
Just
Jared.
wait.
If there was ever a time to predict an injury, We're not
Trade
gonna
him.
do that.
Trade him this week.
We're not gonna do that. But what we are gonna do is we're gonna move on. Again, this is kind of like the first two matchups we talked about. Hunter's got the matchup against Adam, who just lost Anthony Richardson to the bench. The Colts have benched him. Let's see if Adam does. So yeah, we'll see. Hunter's going to win this game. I don't think any of us have anything much to say about this.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, it's a tough break. Like I said, I think in the pregame warm up where we were talking about this stuff, I do think Pittman will take a step forward with Flacco at quarterback, but it just doesn't offset losing a top quarterback prospect, we should say.
Hey, he had a good fantasy game last week. He had an okay fantasy game, I'll say.
I mean, sure. I mean, the thing is, if they just let him run 10 times a game, he'd be relevant. But again, he's not shown durability enough to do it. So I'm beating a dead horse. I'm sorry, Anthony.
Well,
but
we've talked about him so much. He's probably put on headphones because he's tired of listening to us.
I'm gonna send him a copy of this. He's tapped out. He's turned his phone off. Yeah. I'm gonna send him a copy of this podcast. I'm gonna find his email.
Yeah, we're gonna get a cease and desist in the mail from Anthony Richardson's lawyers. But speaking of cease and desist, Rob might as well cease and desist playing. That was mean. 1-7 playing Disco this week. Who won't have Jordan Mason on bye.
The powerhouse tight end lineup he's got going. The heavy tight end set.
He's running is that 13 personnel where we have 3 tight ends on the field?
Bro, I don't even know. He's running the tight end set. That's all I know.
He's running the white people versus black people lineup. We're just gonna line up with tight ends everywhere and pound the rock.
Yeah, dude.
Anyway, I think that Corey or Disco will win this game. I think his lineup's better top to bottom than Rob's. Do you guys have anything to add? Looks like you guys.
I think Cousins. So I think Rob's got a chance. It's going to come down to what Cousins does. I feel like because neither of these teams have a lot of depth. So if Cousins has a big game against Dallas's defense. That would be the only way I could see Disco kind of pulling this out because Mason's out. He just doesn't have a lot sitting there. I mean, none of the dispersal teams were really looking at, the cream of the crop anyway and are kind of looking to the future. So I do think that Rob has a chance. I think Myers obviously can have a decent week. I think that Geno Smith will have a better week than he did last week. So, like I said, I think I picked Rob for this one.
Yeah, and for me, I would say I picked Rob as well, or Cumped, mostly just because of some of the injuries, or not injuries, but even bye weeks, actually, that Disco has. He doesn't have Jordan Mason, and he doesn't really have anything to replace him in that matchup. And just looking at the rosters, I think we'll see our second win from Rob this week. I think we'll see some bigger games from his running backs, Ezekiel Elliott, and he's got the 2 E's, and Eckler.
Old guys, man.
Yeah, really though. It's like if he had this roster 5 years ago, you might be like, other than like Jacoby Myers, and he's got some other things too. But yeah, I think the truly, yeah.
Yeah, dude, Tannehill 4 years ago was a QB1. He was a QB1.
2020 fantasy football out here.
Yeah, dude. He's playing COVID fantasy football.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. It's mostly a feeling, but I think Rob will win this game.
So you could say you've got a feeling that this week's going to be a good week.
Anyway.
Well, that got no applause.
Well, I wasn't. I mean, listen, that's strictly for my entertainment.
Anyway, moving on. The last matchup of the week here, we've got Clint himself versus JGF. JGF has been trying to trade Stephon Diggs, and I don't know if he was trying to trade him because of the picks he was going to get or to lose the points to hopefully lose more games. But He's definitely going to lose more games without Stephon
Don't I
Diggs.
own his first anyway?
You do own his first, so he was probably looking to get
Yeah.
another pick. But
Yeah, it's not
So,
going to be at the bottom because we're in
the
the lineup.
question here,
Yeah.
Clint, is: are you trying to win this week?
Listen, man. As I've said,
It doesn't
even
matter.
when I am tanking, I am always setting my best lineup. So, my goal is to win if I can, because the reality is my team is going to lose the majority of its games because I've moved off guys like Mike
Derrick Henry.
Evans, Devontae Adams, Derrick Henry, and things like that. And I've got tried to move Cortland Sutton. And stuff like that. But I mean, it's going to come down. In my mind, it comes down to what happens with Devon Achane for his team. What happens with Devon Achane, AJ Brown,
Justice
and
Hill.
Baker Mayfield.
Justice Hill.
I do not find Justice Hill to be a fantasy football relevant
He's
asset.
had some great weeks. That's all I'm saying.
So what? I mean,
And it's just fun to make.
Garindo had 99 yards rushing a few weeks back.
I just
You know what I
like to
mean?
bring
Like,
up Justice Hill, Clint.
yeah, because he got Aaron Rodgers for Justice Hill, which I still think is a very interesting trade. And
Good way to put
JGF, you've said nice things about me, so I'm not going to try and trash your trade. I would not have done that, but you're managing your roster, and so far you've been pretty much as competent as any of the rebuilding teams.
Yeah.
So
Good for you.
I can't hate on that, So I think it's pretty much a coin toss. Who has 2 or 3 players that have a good week, and basically we go from there. So I mean, Bo Nix has obviously been outperforming expectations.
Well-
Cortland Sutton had a great week.
Well, you said the word coin toss. So, Jared, who's your bet to win this game?
My bet to win this game is Clinton.
Is that heads or tails?
That it would be tails because tails never fails.
Ah, wow.
Oh,
For
Jared,
those-
I
for
fail
those that
quite
don't
often.
know, Jared has gotten into sports betting on more than just player props. He bet on a coin toss this past week. That's
Good for you, man. That's
That's
when you
why
really
I'm
become a
bringing it up.
degenerate. I
Hey.
like it.
By
He's
the way,
made a lot
I
more
told
money
you I
this week.
lost that bet. I actually won when I went back and looked at it the next day.
Oh,
I
this
won
is my new
$9
favorite
on that
thing.
coin toss, okay? I don't want
Oh
to hear
my
any of your
goodness.
shit talking
I
about it.
Jared, I can't wait for you to put a coin toss parlay together this week. Have $10, pay like
Oh,
500
man.
on all the games.
Do you bet on the side that the coin lands on, or do you bet on which team
wins
picks
it?
what
Bet
side?
which team
No,
wins.
like which team picks heads or tails. So
No,
like,
it's just which team
okay.
wins.
if the Giants versus the Eagles, and the Eagles like you bet whether they pick tails and whether tails wins or not, we could really get layers into this.
That would be
You know?
great, but no, it's just literally who won the coin toss. So if
It'd be-
I'm trusting them to pick.
Yeah, that's a lot of faith, man. You
It
never
really
know.
is.
You're trusting a ref to flip a coin right,
Hope
and you're
Anthony,
trusting a team to pick
Hope
it. So.
Anthony Richardson's not out there. Don't want him to just get tired before the coin toss
He-
happens.
Well, I mean, he probably would
Win
be
air,
able to,
he'd
you know,
tap
like,
out.
yeah, he definitely couldn't pick the coin up for you. That would be too much stress on his body.
Oh man. Allegedly. Now we're safe. Now
Yeah.
everything we said.
No,
was
he-
allegedly.
He 100% said, "I
a
tapped
little
out because
tired.
I was tired."
Yes,
that was a
yes,
lot of.
He did say
Okay.
that, but the ongoing jokes by Anthony Richardson will stop. This was the last week we talked about Anthony Richardson being tired. It was just too funny not to bring up repeatedly. Speaking of things we don't want to bring up repeatedly, my bold predictions last week. There have been some bad ones this year, like Brett Alexander Madison, for example. But I think this took the cake. I had 2. I predicted Troy Franklin to go 8 receptions for 120 and 1 touchdown. He had 1 catch for 6 yards and 1 carry for 3 yards. So, not even close.
That too, didn't you?
What?
You were like, you had a parlay on that. And you were like,
Yes,
this is
Troy
my
Franklin
most
was in a
confident
parlay
one.
for me as well. But,
And I said, "Who's that guy?"
anyway, we didn't need to go there, but
Sorry.
it was brutal, honestly. But the other one was Jaden Reed. He was also in a parlay for me. I predicted him to have 6 catches for 160 yards and a touchdown. He had 2 catches for 55 yards in this game. And I think he had like a 48-yard catch in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
So
that
two terrible
totally
predictions.
it got completely derailed by the Love injury. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
you know
And they
kind of
up in the game. If they were down, they would have had to throw, but they were up the whole game pretty much. So there is that. But Jared went back to the well last week of the Carolina quarterback room for the third time this season.
And I hit.
Second time this season.
I mean, it wasn't like a crazy hit, to be honest, considering how
very close to exact.
Yeah, it
Took
was
some inspiration from JGF, I might say.
Yeah, so I bet that, or not bet, but predicted, or my bold prediction was Bryce Young to have 240 total yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, with 1 rushing touchdown. So 2 touchdowns in total and an interception, which honestly for most quarterbacks would be like a Monday. For Bryce Young, that is his second best fantasy year, or second best fantasy game all time. And it was close. He had 230 yards, total yards, and then 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So obviously, interceptions were 1 high, total touchdowns matched, but I thought he'd have a rushing touchdown as well. He didn't have that. But I think it's about as close as you could expect for a player like that.
What do you mean by a player like that? Was
Well,
that a
he's
short
just,
camp or?
He's kind of trash, honestly.
Yeah, that's another guy
Hey.
I traded for last year,
But
and I'm very sad that I did that.
I didn't see him tapping on the helmet for Andy Dalton to come into the game. So credit. To
Yeah,
him.
Well,
he knows-
he knows he doesn't have to tap on his helmet to get out of the game.
They take him out whenever they
That
want.
was
They're like,
such a-
please, God, Andy Dalton, if your family hadn't almost been murdered in a car accident this week, like, are you sure we can't just, narking or
Oh
something
my
and get you
goodness,
some?
that's brutal.
Like, you sure we can't shoot you up with some Toradol or whatever and get you out there?
Cortisol,
But-
yes, that's the one.
Yeah,
Anyway,
man, that poor
Jared,
guy.
since you love your quarterback predictions, Jared, we're gonna go to you first this week. What do you have in store for us?
Yeah, so myself, like actually several of the other people in this prediction, I think a quarterback is going to absolutely go off. I think that Joe Flacco against the Minnesota Vikings is going to have 325 plus yards, 4 touchdowns, and only 1
Now,
interception.
I have one question. Is that total yards or passing yards? Because as we saw against Jacksonville, the man can still move.
I'm just going to go
Although-
passing yards. He could have
although
100
after
rushing
that,
yards and still be within reason.
Since it is a popular topic today, I gotta get back to it. After that run, he did say that he was a little winded and barely could get that play call out. After
Maybe
that
that's
run,
where
so
Anthony
Anthony
got it
Richardson
from.
took some inspiration from Flacco.
Joe Flacco is also almost 40.
Yes,
Um,
and he's never been mobile.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, literally, the last time Joe Flacco was relevant before Anthony Richardson got into the league,
was
Anthony Richardson was probably in middle school,
That is
if even that. So,
middle school was crazy. Yeah.
yeah, dude. So I mean, that's the thing. Anthony Richardson's mother is like 3 days younger than Joe Flacco, or something like that. They're basically the same age. Like Joe Flacco could be Anthony Richardson's father if you take the whole DNA thing out of that.
Okay. Well, yes, he could.
Ethnicity or whatever.
Jared, do you have anything? Do you want to finish your statements there?
The other thing I want to say, and just like I know we're not sponsored by any betting platforms, but I'm cooking with our lineup, and you'll see the other ones. But I bet the touchdown overs.
We'll say
on
that. We'll
every
say that for
single
the
game.
end. Save that for the end. We'll
Okay.
go specifically what we've got, and
Jeez,
specifically
guys, I thought we were organized here.
specifically what Clint has in store for us with his quarterback prediction.
Okay, so I'm not going to say that this is particularly bold, but I think that this is a get-right game
I think
for
it's bold.
Dakota Prescott. So
Wait, is that his name?
last year,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh my
Dakota
god.
Prescott. So last year, after the bye week, Dak Prescott was the number one quarterback in fantasy football. And he has a particularly favorable schedule going forward. So I think this week, now I'm not going to say it's exactly 335, but I think he's going to have 335 passing yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, and 1 interception on the day. And that's mostly because I've seen what the Bucs were able to do against that secondary a couple of times this year. We've been able to put up significant points, and with even last week with limited weapons, we were still able to produce pretty well with K-Dot having a breakout game and things like that. So I think that what's their tight end's name? Ferguson. I think Ferguson can have Jake Ferguson can have a great game this week, and I think Lamb is obviously unlike anything that they've seen in recent weeks. So I think that will propel them to have. Let's say this: I think Lamb gets a touchdown as well, and I think Ferguson gets one. So I will further my bold prediction.
Receiving touchdown.
Zeke Elliott, is he active? No. Let's make it crazy. This is where it'll get bold.
Oh, no.
Is he will throw a 9-yard route out of the backfield to Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook will be dragging a defender into the end zone, but on the right side of the end zone, and one of his shoes will be untied.
Whoa.
Oh, sorry. I felt like JGF there for a second. I'm just kidding, guys. I don't know who the third one will go to, but if I were going to lean one direction or the other, I would say Dalvin Cook, or I would say Lamb with 2, and Ferguson with 1.
Nope, we're going with what you originally said. It's already official. It's put in ink. Dalvin Cook, 9-yard touchdown, dragging a defender with an untied shoe, receiving touchdown.
Left shoe, on the right-hand side. On the right-hand side.
Left shoe,
so
right side of the field. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna get specific, let's get specific.
Amen.
And his interception will go to Bates.
Oh my goodness, Okay, this is getting really specific. Goodness.
Well, I mean, Bates is one of the top safeties in the league, so he does have a good chance if there is an interception.
If this hits exactly right, I might want you to predict the lottery ticket number for me.
Numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually would be astonished if Cooks has more than 15% of the snaps this week, to be honest with you. But
last week we had a quarterback make his second appearance on our bold predictions show of the season, that being Bryce Young. The first time it didn't go well, the second time it did. I'm hoping to draw some more of that devil magic here with this pick. I've got Bo Nix in my prediction. Much like the other two, it's a good game. I'm predicting 350 total yards and 3 touchdowns from Nix. Probably 2 passing, 1 rushing, if I had to guess. He's been good recently. We just watched the Ravens get carved up by Jameis Winston making his first start of the year.
Yeah, now, bad defense.
It seems like the Ravens can stop the run and not the pass. So I think Nix will be able to pass all over that defense. And he's been improving as an NFL quarterback, as well as for fantasy in recent weeks.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, as Jared started to mention, I will let him finish his thought about what we've done this week for these 3 quarterback predictions.
Yeah, so my thought process was if we had 3 quarterbacks and they all had 3 touchdowns and crazy yardage above 300, that we should cook up a parlay with all 3, because what better way to cement how much we feel
we're putting our money where our mouth is, basically.
Yeah, exactly that. So we put, at least I put, a 3-touchdown game parlay on each of these quarterbacks. So that's Joe Flacco, Bo Nix, and Dak Prescott. It is a 51x parlay. So $5 was like 200 and what was it? 280.
It's $258.80, and I also have the parlay live.
Yeah,
we're riding.
Yeah, so we are going to try to cash in big on our predictions. We'll see if that works out.
And in addition to that, I have doubled down. I put a $10 parlay on them all to go over their passing yards line. So for Dak, that's 261. For Flacco, that's 227. And for Knicks, that's 215. That $10 would pay 51 if it hits. So we're finally putting our money where our mouth is. Hopefully we don't have a Troy Franklin and Jaden Reed situation on our hands. But we've been pretty good when we've predicted quarterbacks this year. So
well, this is my first prediction, and I'm honestly just saying it out of desperation because I own Dak Prescott and I need him to do something in his life.
Well, so in that case, I hope Dalvin Cook lets a shoe untied for you. And
me too, man.
If that happens, we're gonna have you back on next week because that would be absolutely insane.
I mean, honestly, if Lamb gets the 2 and Fergie gets the 1, I think I should be able to come back next week. What do you think?
We'll have to talk to our investors on that one. But we will see you guys next week with untied shoes, I guess.
Hopefully.
You guys are wearing shoes?
I'm barefoot always.
That's why they're untied.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yep.
Indeed.
Have a good night.
Night.
I hope everybody enjoyed this marathon.